Let me ask you something. When was the last time you changed your opinion because someone on the internet disagreed with you? When was the last time you lost sleep over whether people approved of a decision you made? When was the last time you walked into a room and thought, do these people respect me? If you're a man in your 50s or 60s, a Gen X man, those questions probably feel strangely distant, like they belong to someone younger, someone who hasn't figured things out yet. And you're right, they do. Because somewhere between the hard lessons of your 30s and the quiet confidence of where you are now, something shifted inside you. You stopped needing it, the approval, the applause, the constant reassurance from other people. But here's what most men your age have never been told. That shift isn't accidental. It isn't just getting older. There's deep psychology behind it. And understanding it will change how you see yourself, how you lead your life, and how you handle the people who still need your validation, even when you no longer need theirs. Stay with me, because this goes deeper than you think. To understand why Gen X men no longer need validation, you have to understand why almost everyone does at some point. Here's the psychology. When we're young, teenagers, young adults, our brains are literally wired for social approval. The prefrontal cortex, the part that handles long-term thinking and self-regulation, isn't fully developed until our mid-20s. So what fills that gap? Other people. We measure ourselves through their eyes. We perform for their applause. We dress, talk, achieve, all to answer one unconscious question. Am I good enough? Psychologists call this external locus of control. Your sense of worth lives outside you, in what others say, think, and feel about you. And here's why that's dangerous. When your worth depends on external approval, you become fragile. One critical comment, one person who doesn't like you, one moment of rejection, and you're unsteady. You've seen younger men living this way. Maybe you lived this way yourself, always performing, always measuring, always slightly anxious. But somewhere in your 40s and 50s, something started changing. And in a moment, I'll tell you exactly what that was.
Here's something important that rarely gets said about Gen X men. You were forged in a different era. You grew up without social media, without likes and followers, without the constant digital feedback loop that younger generations have been soaking in since childhood. You learned to entertain yourself, to be bored and survive it, to figure things out without Google, without YouTube, without a comment section telling you if you did it right. You were raised with a certain unspoken code. Handle your business, don't complain, figure it out. Now, was that code always healthy? Not entirely. A lot of Gen X men learned to suppress, not just to be strong, but it gave you something invaluable.
Let's get into the real psychology here. When a man stops needing external validation, it isn't emptiness, it isn't detachment. It's actually the opposite. It's fullness. Psychologist Abraham Maslow described this in his hierarchy of needs. At the base, survival, safety, belonging. But at the top, what he called self-actualization. A man is no longer driven by what he lacks. He's driven by what he has to give. Gen X men, many of you are living at that level right now, even if you've never had that name for it. You've stopped trying to earn a place at the table. You know you belong there. Or you've decided you don't need that table at all. You've stopped chasing status symbols that impress people you don't care about. You've become, in the best possible sense, harder to manipulate. Think about that for a moment. The entire engine of advertising, social media, political rhetoric, it all runs on insecurity, on making you feel not enough. So you'll buy something, follow someone, or change your mind. A man who doesn't need validation is largely immune to that engine. He listens, he considers, he updates his views when the evidence changes, not when the crowd changes. That's not stubbornness. That's psychological sovereignty. And here's what's fascinating. Research in positive psychology consistently shows that men who've made this shift report higher life satisfaction, stronger relationships, and more meaningful purpose than at any earlier point in their lives. But there's one more thing you need to know. Because this strength, if misunderstood, can become a blind spot. Here's the part most people skip. Not needing validation is powerful, but there's a version of it that goes wrong. Some men, especially men who've been hurt, dismissed, or overlooked for years. Confuse not needing approval with not needing anyone. They close off. They stop letting people in. They call it strength, but underneath, it's protection. There's a difference between a man who doesn't need approval because he's secure and a man who stopped caring because he's given up. The first man is present. He still connects. He still loves. He still allows himself to be known by the people who matter. The second man has walled himself off, and he mistakes the silence inside those walls for peace. Real psychological independence doesn't mean disconnection. It means you can be fully present with people, giving them your genuine self without needing them to respond in a particular way. You can say what you mean. You can love without clinging. You can disagree without crumbling. That's the version of validation-free living worth building. The kind where your roots go deep enough that the wind doesn't knock you down, but you're still standing in the open. And in the close, I want to leave you with the one question that separates the men who are truly free from those who only think they are.
So here's the question I want you to sit with. Not do you need approval from others, but whose voice do you still listen to inside your own head? Because for many men, even the most self-assured, accomplished, confident men, there are old voices still running. A father who was never satisfied. A teacher who dismissed you. An ex who made you feel small. A version of yourself from decades ago who believed he wasn't enough. True freedom from validation isn't just about what other people think of you now. It's about quieting the old voices that still try to measure you and replacing them, slowly, deliberately, with something more honest. A reckoning with who you actually are, what you've actually built, and what you actually believe. You've earned that. Most men your age have. They just haven't been told to claim it. Consider this your reminder. If this video spoke to something real in you, hit subscribe, because what's coming next will go even deeper into the psychology of men at this stage of life. And if you haven't watched our last video yet, go check it out now. It connects directly to what we just talked about today. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.